Passion. That's the nothing personal word of the day for Thursday, August 14th, 2025. Today's episode is brought to you by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Passion, that is a great adjective. It's what you want your fan base to feel. It's what you want to feel about your partner. It's what you want to feel about your life. Passion, who's got it? Well, the Pohlad family does. They are the owners of the Minnesota Twins, and they released a letter yesterday, and it was a juicy, awesome letter. And passion was the word that they wanted to make sure that you took from it, though I didn't take that one. I took many other words from it, like detailed and robust. Can you imagine that there was a detailed and robust process and that at the end, the team is not going to be sold? The family will remain the principal owner of the Minnesota Twins, and people in Minnesota are despondent beyond repair. I'm not sure why. The Pohlads have owned the team since 91. You've had a World Series championship. Oh, you were No, you weren't contracted. Wait. Oh, yeah. I get it. You thought that after the fire sale that took place, and God, do I hate using that word, but it's not like they didn't trade 10 of their 26-man roster around the July 31st trade deadline. Let's pretend it was not a fire sale. Let's pretend it was a repositioning of assets. But the thought was this team is going to get sold. It's been for sale. And we thought Justin Ishbia, yes, Matt Ishbia, Phoenix Suns brother, we thought Ishbia was going to buy it. So did the commissioner, except Ishbia ended up buying the White Sox, which left the Twins SOL. But I figured everything was fine. Why would I not believe the commissioner? Rob Manfred on July 15th was very clear to everybody. I know some things that you don't know. I can tell you for certain the commissioner knows some things that we don't know. Check. Rob said, I can tell you with a lot of confidence that there will be a transaction there, speaking about the Twins, and it will be consistent with the kind of pricing that has taken place. Consistent with 1.7 for the Rays, consistent with 1.7 for the Orioles. So I guess we're talking about 1.7, which we know that Ishbia may or may not have been in that neighborhood. We know there's no one else in that neighborhood for the Marlins, clearly not. For the Angels, they can't get a number at all because Artie Moreno wants to sign. For the Twins, it appears not. For the Nationals, definitely not. Only Ted Leonsis wants to bid for the Nationals, and he's not hitting the asking price. So we've got an epidemic in baseball, but the Twins were not going to be the issue. Rob said there will be a transaction. We just need to be patient while they rework. That was July 15th. What would have happened in the last month that would cause the Pohlad family to release a statement that you can find anywhere online? That is a statement that is being crushed. Why is it being crushed? Because it's a letter from the Pohlad family announcing like today's Tuesday. That seems like an unnecessary letter to write. So you got to get some juice in there. And juice is what they did, explaining that for decades they've owned the team and it's a privilege and there's passion. They explored investment opportunities. Their focus is on what's best for the fans and long-term for the Twins. It's page 4 out of the statement playbook, except it was tone deaf because it totally ignored that the entire fan base wasn't crying with passion for the Pohlad family to keep the team. They were yelping with despair for the Pohlad team to sell. But I don't know if you know this, but when you sell a team, you have to go through a very detailed and robust process. I have no idea how they describe it as detailed and robust. What I do know is that after that process, the Pohlad family said, you know what? We're going to remain the principal owner of the Minnesota Twins because we see and hear the passion from our partners, the community and Twins fans. Their words. Well, I don't know where they see it. Certainly not in the Star Tribune. Certainly not on the streets of Minnesota. That passion inspires us, the Pohlad family said. I like that. But listen, for all of the people in Minnesota and all the fans of the Maroon 5 logo, I assure you that the Twins are in good hands because it's not a money issue. Why? We found out, and this is a quote, we are in the process of adding 2 significant limited partnership groups, each of whom will bring a wealth of experience and share our family values. A couple comments just between me and the Pohlad family. I have great respect for you, but if you're bringing in groups, groups are which, not whom. If you're bringing in limited partners, then you say each of whom. If you're bringing in limited partnership groups, you say each of which, but I digress. Now, when I look for limited partners, I'm looking for a wealth of experience in what? In the widget business? Are they in the media business? What business? Are they in the baseball business? The minor league business? What wealth of experience? Finance? Private equity? What exactly wealth of experience? Charitable? Philanthropic? I'm in. Oh, they may have a cure for the yips in case Knobloch comes back. That may be the wealth of experience. Unclear. Sharing our family values. What does that mean? No late-term abortions? What does it mean to share our family values? That we don't like having premarital intercourse? Does it really matter to Twins fans what's happening with family values and the limited partners sharing those family values? I don't know. Maybe it's that we want to make the ballpark a fun, safe place during the summer when it's nice and during the fall when it's cold. I'm not exactly positive, but the fact that it was important enough to be in a statement that was released in like a bait and switch to make you not think of the reality that, oh my God, we're stuck with the owners, which I am not in favor of fans being in charge of who owns a team and who doesn't, or forcing an owner out. But I'm also not a fan of some sort of statement being released that explains that, hey, business as usual. My view always was, if it's business as usual, then you usually wouldn't do business by sending this letter. You would just keep owning the team. And then you do a scrum during next spring training or at the end of the season. Hey, what's up with the sales process? Well, I actually have nothing new to report. Because every team's for sale. It's just a matter of price. It's just a matter of timing. I don't know why the commissioner would put such a large likelihood on this team being sold. I understand the Pohlads wanted to get out. There's no doubt. Jim Pohlad's done a great job. John Pohlad, the whole Pohlad family, post Carl Pohlad, who passed away many, many years ago. They've been looking. They've been looking, and they can't find. But why would the commissioner give you timing? I got a word of advice, and I've said this directly to the commissioner, so I don't feel badly doing it on the show. Deadlines with dates are a bad plan. They just rarely work. You got to just give aspirational moments and thoughts of seasons. Like, yeah, the collective bargaining agreement is going to expire in December of 2026. That's the kind of date you can give. You don't want to say, I expect the team to get sold, or I expect that a media rights deal will be done by the All-Star game, because there's only downside. Now, if you're me, and you have a microphone and a platform, you can do a wait to see and then put a date on it. And if it doesn't happen, you're wrong, and then you own it. But when you're a commissioner, it just hits differently. So it makes it look like you're not getting what you want. So you said you'd have a TV deal by the All-Star break to replace ESPN. I still am positive they're going to do better than what ESPN was doing. But why give a date? It makes you look like, oh, we don't have a deal. When you have a team that's for sale, why give your thought on timing, on a date? What's the purpose of it? Because it's just downside. Once the team gets sold, you can then say, this now obviously makes sense. We welcome in Mr. X and we say goodbye and thank you to the Pohlad family. I remind you that I said, because I'm going to make myself accountable as much as I'm going to make the commissioner accountable. All the way back on March 25th of 2025, so that was 5 months ago, basically, I told you the Twins will have an agreement in place to sell the team prior to the start of the 26th season. Coca and I had a great talk during the pre-production meeting because that would seem like a loss. But Coca, we're not yet at the start of next season. And between now and next April, that gives us, for those counting at home, 8 months. What happens if someone comes a knocking on Pohlad's door and says, I'd like to buy your team for $1.9 million. Guess what? The Twins will be sold. And that whole letter about passion and we heard you and we're here to fight for you and make you proud to be a Twin, they'd be off that team and selling that team so fast your head would spin round like a renegade. That's not the words. Darn it, Coke, I was so close to a great sticking of the landing. You spin me right round, baby, right round like a blank. Jack, anybody? You know that song. Spin like a record? That's not the word, Coca. You spin me right round, baby, right round like a record, baby. I don't think so, but it may be. I'm not taking the no on the wait to see. There's no reason because we have till next season. I wouldn't even take the no on the wait to see, even though I'm about to take a yes on the Trailblazers wait to see, because I told you the Trailblazers were going to get sold by Paul Allen's sister because they had to get sold. The Portland Trailblazers, what do these three teams have in common just off the top of your head? The Portland Trailblazers, the Seattle Sounders, and the Seattle Seahawks. Any ideas? By a show of hands, all owned by Paul Allen. Paul Allen, he of Microsoft fame, Paul Allen's dead. When Paul Allen died, he had a will, and the will said that these teams will be put in a trust. That trust will be run by my sis. These teams will then be sold in a reasonable time, and the proceeds of such sale will go to my philanthropic efforts. That seems clear. That was 7 years ago. I'm not trying to exhume Mr. Allen here, nor do I want to disturb the mort. But were Paul Allen to be asked in some sort of afterlife as he's sitting up there smoking a cig, looking down at all that he created and wondering why he can't get a good Wi-Fi connection, my guess is he would say to you that 7 years seems a little long to have the sister not having sold the team. So, big news yesterday. Step one, the Trailblazers are going to be sold. And you wouldn't believe who bought them because in a move that was not expected in the industry, Tom Dundon has agreed to buy the Trailblazers. You may not know who that is unless you're in Raleigh. And to the 1%, it's under 1%, it rounds up. So it's like 0.79% of you in the Raleigh area. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations. Your owner's now going to be schlepping back and forth to the Pacific Northwest. Not totally crazy because in the EPL, you've got American owners who schlep across the pond every month in Dunderstick. So it's not a huge thing. But if you think that you're getting a team in Raleigh, an NBA team, to be like a brother team to those hugely successful Charlotte Hornets, newsflash, NGTH. Not going to happen. It is sort of big news that the Carolina Hurricanes owner is going to bid about $4 billion as a valuation of the Trailblazers. And the reason why it's fascinating to me is we'll talk about in a minute team valuations and the significance of these studies that come out and then what the numbers are for the NFL, et cetera, and MLB and the NBA. But you've got the Trailblazers in at $4 billion valuation. Sportico came out with the valuations, and Sportico came out with this purchase, and ESPN's Shams had the scoop that it was going to be in the $4 billion range. And here's the interesting part about this. What is his plan other than getting Lillard back? Because remember, they're in a bit of an old arena. They had a lease that was running out in 2025. That was this year. There was a ton of talk about relocation. The lease has been extended to 2030, but after 2030, the Trailblazers really have no place to play. They're trying to get financing for a new building in Portland, but it hasn't happened yet. And query if Portland's trying to get an MLB team, are there only one source of cash and now two uses, which would be a ballpark for baseball and an arena for basketball? The answer is that no one knows exactly for sure what's happening, either in MLB relocation or what's going to happen with the Portland Arena. The only thing we do know is they don't have a lot of time. Because while we're here in 2025, you'd say, oh, we got 5 years. What's the big deal? These things take years, as you know. And all the Trailblazers have done recently, all they've done is they cut a deal to extend the lease from 25 to 30. They did a smart deal with the city of Portland, which gave them the arena back. So it's not privately owned, so they can save property taxes. Gave them the land under and wrote it and got a check for $7 million, all of which goes to their bottom line because you don't own the arena. You don't need to own the land. And it's way better for property taxes if you don't own either. But that's not a new arena solution. That's like lipstick on a pig. That's figuring out how do we deal with the acute issue we have today and then worry about tomorrow. And then, of course, you pass the buck completely by just selling the team. So while Paul Allen and his foundations will get the benefit of this sale, and his sister will step back to only running the Sounders and the Seahawks, you have to realize that for the NBA, this transaction matters. They've wanted this transaction to happen. Adam Silver has been talking about this transaction. They've wanted the Trailblazers to be moved because there was some thought that Paul Allen's sister was not running the team in a way that Adam Silver would have liked her to have run the team. We're going to find out here shortly what exactly Dundon has in store for his team. And all I can say is that when you put together a limited partnership group and you include someone who lives in Portland, it feels better to everybody. And one of the limited partners of Dundon is a guy who is Portland-based. So does that mean anything? No, it actually doesn't. Does it mean anything when the Trailblazers did this deal to sell the arena back and the land? Does it actually mean that a new one's going to be built? No, it really doesn't. These are just separate business deals. When you're buying a team, you want to get local limited partners, just like we did. But when you move the team, you take the local partners with you. It's all a very interesting dance that people play when they're buying a team, and they're doing it because of you. They're doing it because they somehow want to look as though they are local, that they're team players. And just because you bring someone in who's from Portland, can you imagine the introductory press conference, this guy who owns the Hurricanes will sit down in front of a microphone and he will talk to you about his team and how much he feels about the team on the field and how committed he is to the community and what a part of it he wants to be. And then when asked about, hey, what about the new arena? You look right in the camera in your first press conference and you say, hey, we're going to get to work on that right now. We are going to absolutely move every stone, unearth every bit of plan we can in order to make sure that this happens for you, the fan, which also happens to be famous last words before you relocate. However, the Trailblazers aren't going to relocate. Adam Silver right now has no interest in relocation. He is all about expansion. And we know from baseball, when someone in a league is about expansion, you can't be messing with relocation. It screws it up, just like Oakland relocating to Vegas definitely has an impact on expansion. So, Coca, I'm so positive that Portland's going to stay in Portland that I feel like adding to my wait to sees for today. So August 14th, 2025. Hold your breath, everyone in the Pacific Northwest. Hold it. Hold it. Wait to see. The Trailblazers will not relocate. Sorry, Coke. It's a freebie. It's a total freebie. You didn't even make me put a time on it. $12.2 billion. What do you think of that? Does it make you smile that that's how Sportico valued the Dallas Cowboys? Does it make you feel like that Jerry Jones is P.T. Barnum? Does it make you realize that Jerry Jones actually doesn't have to win, doesn't need to win? maybe doesn't even care about winning given the fact that he's his own GM? Does it make you frown that Jerry Jones is laughing all the way to the bank of valuation? It shouldn't. You should be tipping the cap. The Dallas Cowboys are worth $12.2 billion. Come on. If I'm Jerry Jones and I see this Sportico article come out with NFL valuations that has me at 12.2 Cowboys and then the Rams at 10.4 and the Giants at 10.2, I think you get the Sportico on speed dial, and I think you say to them, dudes, you're not even close. Right now, the Dallas Cowboys are probably worth twice what the Rams are worth, and that is even me not giving up control of the team. I can get a valuation of $20 billion. You're telling me that I'm only 20% more than the Los Angeles Lakers of Los Angeles? Now, that's an iconic franchise, but we're the Cowboys, for crying out loud. Can you imagine that the LA Rams and the New York Giants are in theory worth more than what the Lakers sold for? Is that just the strength of the NFL? Do you know that we summarily dismiss all of these lists that happen like this unless they come out in our favor, and then we talk about how great it is to have a team with such a great value? Do you know that the cheapest NFL team, according to Sportico's valuation, is $5.5 billion? The Bengals. Who doesn't love Cincinnati? Who doesn't love Joe Burrow? Who doesn't realize that they're having some stadium issues and some revenue issues? It's $5.5 billion. Come on. It made me want to look at all the other sports and find out what was going on. And I looked at the NFL and I calculated, because that's what we do here, nothing personal for you. The NFL has an average of $7.13 billion franchise value. Remember that number, 7.13. The NBA, however, is 4.6. MLB, 2.82. NHL, 1.79. And then Major League Soccer, 721. What does it mean to have an average valuation? If you've got way too many people and it's obviously weighted way down or weighted way up, it can have an impact on that number. We could talk about the mean. We could talk about the median. We could talk about the mode. And I don't know what the mode would be other than if two teams are worth 1.9, then 1.9 is the mode. Can you imagine, Coca, if I got that right? I am going back to like SAT type stuff, the difference between mean, median, and mode. I have some recollection, Coca, that mode is about frequency. That in a string of numbers, if you've got 10 separate numbers and then 3 eights, literally, so there are more eights than any other number out of the 13 numbers you have, 10 regular numbers and 3 eights, I think 8 becomes the mode. For all of you math people out there, I swear to you, I used to be really good at math. I just don't remember any of it. Sine, cosine, tangent. Oh my God, I can only draw it. Although I could also, of course, use a computer. But anyway, back to valuations, Coca. That math lesson's over for today, August 14th, 2025. You got to wonder when a valuation is being done, and the one that struck me was the Los Angeles Lakers were valued at $8.07 billion. How do you feel about that, Mark Walter? You feel good? Is the Buss family whistling Dixie out of its pituitary gland because their team was worth 8.07 and they got someone to buy in at a valuation of 10? Or are the other assets that are included what make it more than the 8.07? Was there 1.93 billion of other stuff that Mark Walter was buying? Wouldn't a valuation of a team be the exact sale price? I certainly hope that in Major League Baseball, they've got the Orioles at 1.7. I would hope in the NBA, well, I guess the T-Wolves sold a year ago, so that can't be. It's got to be higher. Oh my God, I just realized A-Rod has to be the happiest person in history looking at these valuations. What exactly is the Minnesota number, Coca. I don't have it in front of me, but I'll bet you dollars to donuts it's above 1.7, which is roughly the blended rate at which A-Rod got the Timberwolves. And so when you do a deal like that, and then you look at the Sportico valuations or Forbes, and you just say to yourself, oh, it went well. Timberwolves, $3.2 billion. I got to give a standing ovation to Alex. That is just tremendous what you were able to do. Sorry, Glenn, park's closed. What about Jimmy Dolan? How's he feeling owning the Knicks and Rangers? He's feeling fine, I guess. He's got the Knicks at $8.3 billion. He's got the Rangers at $3.2 billion. That sounds like a $12 billion. I was going to say trifecta, but that's not what it is. You know, sometimes I try to be super smart and super where I can come up with different things for different sports. And then it's an exacta maybe. No, that may be not two horses. There's one where you're just guessing the top two, and it's not a parlay because that's sports betting. You know, sometimes you just feel like during the course of a day or a conversation that you're about to say something that you've said in your brain and it sounds super smart. And then all of a sudden you just stutter over it. And then she walks away and that's it. You've lost your opportunity. That's a Thursday, folks. I wonder whether Bruce Sherman of the Marlins is looking at Sportico and the valuations and sees it at 1.3 and says, I told you, Samson. I doubt he's saying that. Let me return to the Cowboys, Coke. I told you I'd get back to the Cowboys. I promised you I would. Is it depressing as a fan? I don't think it is. I don't think it should be. But it's depressing for you when you see valuations of teams go up so much, yet winning doesn't happen. You can't be complaining about player salaries or about what Dak is getting or Lamb or what Parsons may or may not get. But do you feel that the valuations is what should be driving decisions by the owner? Because that's where you and I break apart. These valuations that we saw released, they're great. They sound great. You feel super excited and happy about it. The thing of it is, it doesn't mean anything to the operation. It doesn't change what you do. It just makes Jerry Jones keep being Jerry Jones and keep being out there trying to take advantage of us as though we don't know that he's trying to do it. Because in fact, there's millions of us who don't know that he's trying to do it. And then we think about it and we're like, God dang, we talk about the Cowboys a lot. Man, Jerry Jones steps in it all the time. How great is that for shows? And what are we doing? We're giving platform, stage, and minutes to the star. He's playing chess and I'm playing checkers. There's no doubt. No NFC championship game since the 90s. No Super Bowl, obviously, since the 90s. And his team just keeps going up and up. And Jerry says, hey, I like creating news. He created news for himself. I want to wish him well and congratulate him, lest you think that I am not in any way a mensch, which you'd be wrong. I am. Jerry Jones announced that he had had stage 4 melanoma, which is, from my experience, a bad plan in terms of living a long time. And I'm very glad that he decided to go public with it. I would point out, and I've asked this, now you may think that living in Florida for all those years or living in New York, wherever it is that I live, that I don't sit in the sun, but you'd be wrong. I do sit in the sun. I do use lotion. I do run in the sun, meaning like I'm outside is what I mean. And I would only tell you that go see a dermatologist. No matter what, at least once a year. Get everything checked out between your toes, behind your ears, down where the sun don't shine, the whole package. Because you may think that some place has never gotten any sunlight, and then boom, you could be dead of melanoma. So please get checked no matter what. It's covered by your insurance, I promise. But I'm glad that Jerry got treated, and I'm glad he's okay because he keeps doing things that make me laugh. It's Thursday, Coca. I'm calling for it. It's review time. Welcome to the review. I do a review every day because I watch a movie every day. Every Thursday, we're doing a movie from my top 100 list. Still not updated in way too long, but it's still quite current. But I'm trying to watch all 100 movies once a week and then review them for you. I have no idea how many we've reviewed so far out of the 100, but my guess is we've done 30 of them for sure, maybe even more. And this week, I've got a confession because I cannot mislead you. The movie I'm supposed to review is called Interstellar. I love Interstellar. I loved Interstellar. I've seen it several times. I didn't watch it since last Thursday. This is the first time that I've still watched a movie every day, just not this one. Again, Interstellar is, I want to say, a running time of 240 somewhere. It's not a short movie. And that's no excuse because I've watched more. I've watched a series that lasts longer than that, but I just did not rewatch it. So my review from my last time seen it is that I didn't understand most of it, but I was supposed to love it, and I did. And when I spoke to someone after about Interstellar, and I remember this clearly, I had literally missed all of the stuff that was going on. So I was very interested in watching it again. I just didn't do it since last week. We've got a Thursday coming up next Thursday. I'm going to do another one from my top 100. Ring the bell, Coca. What do we got? Ooh, I think I just reviewed this, didn't I? Usual Suspects, number 36. Interstellar, incidentally, is number 96. Usual Suspects, number 36. I will review that next week. That's a movie I just rewatched, so I don't have to rewatch it again this week. I literally rewatched that within the last 6 weeks, so that will suffice. But Usual Suspects, I'm excited to talk about next week because it'll give us a chance to talk about Kaiser Soze. Tomorrow, I'm going to review Untamed. If you have not finished that series on a channel, I think it's the Big Red N, but I can't remember for sure. It is on Netflix. Untamed with Eric Bana. That's what I was supposed to review today. But today's Thursday. I don't know why I told everyone yesterday I was going to review Untamed. That's for Friday. Thank you. Can we just go to Nothing Personal Pick of the Day, please? Nothing Personal Pick of the Day, presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. We've got a big game today because the Cleveland Guardians are going after the New York Yankees, and they are only one game behind facing the Miami Marlins and their team that was very, very hot. Got to 500. It's fallen a little bit now to 4 below, but still fun to watch, scoring runs. They've got rookies, and they've got a big underdog game with Cabrera pitching. That doesn't make sense. How can the Guardians be minus 138 over the Marlins and it's Edward Cabrera pitching? Are people not watching him, not realizing the quality of pitcher he is? Well, I can't imagine, other than the people at DraftKings, where odds are subject to change, know what the story is, what's what, and who's who. Well, I'm feeling lucky. I'm feeling hot. I'm feeling loving. The Nothing Personal Pick of the Day, presented by DraftKings, is the Guardians over the Marlins. The Guardians, coming off a loss last night, have no choice but to win this game. They cannot, no matter what's happening to them off the field, whatever happened at the deadline, whatever happened with gambling suspensions, they've got to win games because they would love to sneak into those playoffs. It's not like they'd be sitting at the lottery table or not sitting at the lottery table. Wrong sport. Making the playoffs in baseball, you never know. And if you replace the Yankees in the playoffs, you can't get swept by the Yankees in the playoffs. There's a little nugget for you that you may not have known. Guardians, minus 138 over Marlins. Did you see last night's game, Coca? Did you see our pick when we had the Orioles plus 119 over the Mariners? The Mariners, who are Buster Poindexter, HOT. But man, we nailed it. I hope that you watched Trevor Rogers go 7 innings. If you're a Marlins fan, do not be upset that you traded Trevor Rogers because you got back Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby. Great baseball trade. We've talked about it on the show. But when you've got Trevor Rogers on the mound and he's plus money, what in the heck is that? Is that just people who are anti-Orioles or not realizing that Rogers can give you 7 large and a great chance to win? Well, it happened last night. Orioles beat the Mariners, which means we're 108 and 102. Boom. I would say we're hot. We've had losses for sure, but we're hot. Now, we're not as hot as the Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers are so hot that everybody in Milwaukee is about to gain about 1,000 calories. And that may sound strange to you, but when you get free burgers, you eat free burgers. Sometimes you treat it as a BOGO. Buy one, get one free, so you can eat 2 burgers in one sitting. It's like a flex. Why am I talking about burgers when it comes to my favorite state and city in Milwaukee? Because George Webb, bless their soul, a bunch of mediocre hamburger joints throughout the city of Milwaukee have had a promotion with the Brewers for about 7.5 decades. Hey, if you boys ever win 12 in a row, we'll give away free hamburgers. And Milwaukee said 12 in a row. Like, obviously, who wins 12 in a row? Who wins 12 in a row? Well, in 1987, the Brewers did. That cost George Webb restaurants quite a few burgers. But then in 2018, when they did it again, another 12-game win streak, George Webb said, hold on a very second. We're going to promote the fact that we're giving hamburgers to everybody and that it's free hamburgers. Then we're going to make it a voucher where you have to wait online at a George Webb, get the voucher, and then get your burger. We're going to make it quite difficult because we were just dropping burgers hand over fist with the last 12-game win streak. And oh my God, they had 2 shots to do it this year, and they did it last night with another convincing 12, get it, 5 win over the Pirates for their 12th win in a row, get it, with 12 hits, get it, and now about 12,000 tons of cows who don't have to worry about farting up into the atmosphere anymore because they're going to be so many burgers eaten in Milwaukee. I'm in. I love these kind of promotions. Hit it here and win a Big Mac. That was always my favorite in St. Louis. Hit it here and win a Ford car. Except you had to hit a ball like at a Target. What are the odds? I used to love selling these things at our ballpark. And the way it would work is with insurance, because any team who's offering a giveaway of multi-tens of thousands of dollars, or in George Webb's case, it could be like 100,000 burgers eaten by Milwaukeeans with a couple brewskis. But when you know you've got that type of exposure, you're getting some insurance. When we had sponsors who were going to do giveaways if an event happened, part of the cost of the sponsorship in terms of our cost of doing business is the cost of insurance, because the company would say, I'll do this with you. I'll pay you $200,000 a year. Give me an outfield wall sign, but I have to get insurance in case I have to give away a car. I'd like you to pay for the insurance. Let's say that's $10,000, $100,000. $200,000, whatever the annual insurance happens to be, to protect against the possibility of the Brewers winning 12 in a row. I got to tell you, never thought that one would cash. Neither did the insurance company who did the deal with George Webb. The insurance broker went up to his boss and said, I have got the greatest one for you. We're going to collect a premium from these people, and all we have to do is just cover this burger chain. If the Brewers win 12 games in a row, nobody wins 12 games in a row. We are going to be swimming in black ink. Uh-oh. They won 11 in a row, and they're still playing the Pirates one more time. Thank God they're up 6-0, and Brian Reynolds Brian Reynolds homered twice to make it 6-5. We got a shot here. No burgers. We're going to have a press release ready that says we're excited about the burgers and that we couldn't be happier to be giving away the burgers. And they're holding their nose and crossing their fingers because, of course, they're not happy to be giving away free burgers. Trust me. It's an old thing here. When people get something for free, it's not like they're buying a T-shirt. Oh, I just saved $4.99 in a burger. I'm going to spend $12.99 in a T-shirt. Hey, I just saved $3.99 in a burger. I'm going to spend $6 and get extra home frites. People who get free stuff and who doesn't like free stuff tend to have it their way, have it their own way, which is when they leave the park, they have spent a total of zero. But we always like to say, no, give stuff away. It gets them in. You reel them in, and then they buy other stuff. Turns out the people who spend the most on the tickets are the ones who are the most invested in the event and the ones who want to memorialize that event, so they buy crap. When people are there for free, they're like, hey, what did I know? I just got tickets. I just got a burger. God, those Milwaukee fans are super psyched. Why wouldn't they be? I think this may be a record, Coca. Can you check this? Maybe Jack has it off the top of his head. How many days in a row have we talked Brewers? Because it's definitely a record. I had one of our great fans from Milwaukee contact me to say, what did I do to deserve this? I mean, it's not just the Pet Shop Boys asking that question at all. It's people in Milwaukee who are saying, do we have the best record in baseball? Are we running away with the best record in baseball? Are we now not favored to get out of the National League and win the World Series? Oh, wait a minute. We're behind the Dodgers? Yeah. Are we behind anyone else? Yeah. The Brewers are the most disrespected best team in baseball I've ever seen. And you know what? There's a little Stu Gatz in me. Very little. I mean, very, very little. Just the tip, just this once. And what it says is, hey, do it in October. Now, it is true. That's going to be the big difference. If the Brewers can not peak too early, we're going to need them to lose a couple games here, folks, because they're not going to win out until the playoffs start. And in theory, you like to win out when you have to win 11 games. 3 in the first round, then 4 and 4. Assuming you don't play the wild card, which the Brewers won't have to do, play 2 out of 3 because they're going to have one of the top 2 records in the league. Or are they? You're talking about a guy who on the trade deadline said that, hey, I really view the Brewers and Cubs as being neck and neck. I view the Brewers making the playoffs, but the Cubs winning the division. And guess what happened? The Brewers haven't lost a game since. Hurry up. Name their 9th hole hitter. Well, I assume you can name their rookie of the year, Isaac Collins. I assume you can name their rotation. How about that bullpen of Josh Hader and Devin Williams? I mean, that's a knockout, drag them out, unbelievable bullpen. How can you go wrong with the guy who stinks for one team on the injured list with a bad shoulder for another team? You moved on to a bunch of people in your pen that no one's heard of. It's so great. God, is it good to be smart. It's way more important to be smart than to be loved. Speaking as someone who's just is one of those and not the other. It's just better. It's just better. Dave Roberts, you got to do a better quote than this. We're where we're at. That's very true. I would just like to say that anytime you get a quote from somebody and they say, it is what it is. I am where I am. Those are quotes that make you think that you have dug deep into their soul and you've taken an eye toward what makes them tick. Well, if you don't know Dave Roberts, you know him now after his team lost again to the Angels, which is unbelievable that the Angels have beaten them 6 times this year. Totally unheard of. The Dodgers had a lead. It was an Ohtani start. Everything's coming up roses. Ohtani's going 4+ innings, still giving up runs. He's hitting the ball. You've got a lead. And then you blew it and lost 6-5. And guess what that means? That means that the Angels swept the season series from the Dodgers, which is absurd. That means the Angels have won a franchise record 7 straight against the Dodgers, which is absurd. And it means the Dodgers are now 12-21 since July 4th, which is slightly absurd until you hear that in the National League West, there are 2 teams with the 12-21 record since July 4th. Guess who? I'll give you $1. I'll give you a hint. I'm not going to give you $1. I'll give you a piece of merch if you guess the word of the day today. The Rockies. Oh, God. Anytime that you're supposed to be the best team in baseball and you're associated with something that's happening with the worst team in baseball, you know that you've got a major problem. The Dodgers, who are that 9 games under since July 4th, it's a problem. But Dave Roberts said, we're where we at. We put ourselves in this spot. But no, I wouldn't have expected us to be in second place right now. Hold on, what? That's right. The Dodgers are now not even in first place because the Padres won again yesterday. The Padres are 1 game up over the Dodgers. Yes, it's true. So true. It's funny how it seems in my mind that on August 14th, I could have the Padres streaking ahead and winning the division. But rashly, I'm saying, hey, it's a game. The Dodgers are going to get their act together at some point once they get out of LA. That would seem to make the most sense. But then I realize what date we're at. And the fact is that as we head here in the middle of August, it's hard to have changes atop the leaderboard. Very often things are what they are. You've got a few races that go to the end, and maybe you've got 1 or 2 surprises, 1 or 2 things that can happen. But in general, what we are is what we are, and where we're at is where we're at. Where the Dodgers are at, NG. The last thing I want to mention here before we're finishing this hour and getting ready for the next show, where we are going to have an amazing guest, because today's Thursday. I would like to do a shout out to my friends in Texas. Houston, you have a problem, and it's not the Astros. It's the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers. There's this guy on the air. He does a show every day. I cannot remember what it's called, Coca. It's something about it's personal with Samson. I can't exactly remember what it's called, but what I do recall is that person said the Texas Rangers we're going to get off and start winning and make the playoffs. And all they've done since acquiring Merritt Kelly, since getting a good pitcher at the deadline, and actually Kelly went 6 innings yesterday, but the Rangers just lost again to the crappy Diamondbacks, who now they've passed the Giants. Did you know that? They passed the Giants in the standings. God, that is BA-triple-D. But Texas can't score. They're back to 500. They are falling further back of the Guardians, to say nothing of the Yankees. What are we doing here? Texas, you got to wake up from your slumber, or else Chris Young's going to look at you at the end of the year and realize, wait a minute, this core of players is not good enough. And I'm certainly not going to Ray Davies, the owner, and saying, hey, this is my fault. I just became the president of baseball ops. Instead, it's going to be your fault. So if you like your clubhouse and you like the moves that have been made and you're comfortable, go win some darn games. I did not dream that Texas would ever sniff 500 again. But they did. But it is then you have to realize that they're really only 1-1 in their last 42 games, because they already won the 60 and lost the 60. So they're just 1-1, and they've got 40 games to go. Can you believe there's only 40 games to go in this season? We are sprinting toward October. If you saw the postseason schedule, that always gets me excited, Coca. They released the postseason schedule. It's about to be go time. And I don't mean go time like the end of this hour. I mean go time like playoffs are coming. Playoffs are coming. World Series is coming. We are going to take a break. Now, if this works, right after the break, we're going to have a special guest. I think it's going to be fine. I think we're going to be honored by this guest, but wait to see. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. We are set for the second hour of the fourth day of the third week of August. Today is August 14th. I had that all planned, Coca. I had no idea what week this is, whether or not this is the second week of August or the third week of August, and it would have been so darn smooth. A few people got to me yesterday in a total panic, and I thought it was important to try to be helpful to all of you baseball fans there of certain teams who are freaking out, and I'm sort of tired of it. First of all, just because you're not winning a particular game, stop it. One game. I've got friends, which is surprising to some people. I don't have a lot of friends. I've got a lot of acquaintances. Ever since Nothing Personal started about 1,300 episodes ago, 5 more now, because of all the other types of episodes we used to do. And now one episode is 2 hours, which I guess could be considered 2 episodes. So in theory, we're doing like 10 episodes every week, but it's really just 5. They're just 2 hours each, in theory. But I got a lot of people who listen, and I appreciate you very much. I don't appreciate the daily contact from acquaintances. We're not friends. We're just acquaintances. I love hearing from you on occasion. I think that's the definition of acquaintance. Every once in a while, you say, hey, checking in. Are you good? Happy birthday. Happy anniversary. Thinking of you today. Saw something that reminded me of you today. It's not a daily check to make sure that I saw what happened in the Mets game. Yes, I'm talking to you. You decide if you're the you, because I think you're the you who I'm talking to. But yeah, I saw that the Mets were up 6-0. I saw that the Braves scored 9 runs. I saw it. It's not the end of the world. It's not ideal. I grant you that the Mets have starting pitching issues. I grant you absolutely that their ERA has turned out to be terrible. But that doesn't mean in any case that the Mets should be panicked about their season. It simply doesn't. The Mets starting pitchers can't pitch innings? Okay, you told me. I can see that for myself. The fact that you've got your best pitcher on the mound last night and he couldn't get it done, fine. The fact that the Mets keep blowing multiple leads of 4+ runs, fine. The fact that they're 5 games back of the Phillies, I hear you. The fact that the Reds are only 1 game back of Cincinnati in the wild card, I gotcha. You don't have to text me with it. I'm watching it myself. What does it mean? Cincinnati, are they really as good as the Mets? Because if so, that is some serious MLB fun in the sun. Fun in the sun is when a team with very little payroll would make the playoffs instead of a team with a very big payroll. Is that happening in 2 leagues? American League, Guardians, Yankees, 1 game difference. National League, Reds, Mets, 1 game. OMG. Right as we're about to enter collective bargaining, right as we're about to talk about everyone complaining about competitive balance and economic disparity, right as everyone is complaining that my team doesn't have a shot because the darn Dodgers are so big and good and scary and those Mets signed Soto and everybody else. Wouldn't that be a little something, something? It would be glorious with a capital G if the Guardians and the Reds make the playoffs instead of the Mets and Yankees. That is being rooted for by everyone except anyone who works in Major League Baseball and anyone who lives in New York, quite obviously. Do I think, Coca, can we do this right now? Is there a chance that the Mets and Yankees are going to miss the playoffs? Didn't that just happen a couple years ago when Stevie had a big payroll and the Yankees missed it, like 2023? Were they both not there? I don't have the exact year. So I would just ask to all of my people, I love you. You love me. We're a family. Stop it. Don't panic. One game. It was such a bad game, though, last night. I was driving, Coca. The rain was insane. The game was delayed by about an hour and a half. There was a torrential rainpour. A torrential rainpour? That doesn't sound right. A torrential rainstorm. There was lightning, thunder. I'm not a big fan of lightning because I have a fear that is totally irrational of being struck by lightning, though I've seen a guy in a movie get struck by lightning like 7 times. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, where the guy keeps getting struck by lightning and somehow he keeps being okay, which is crazy to me because my view is I don't run when it's lightning. I don't shower when it's lightning because someone once told me that lightning can go through the house, through the shower, through the water, onto your body, and then zzz, all of a sudden you're burnt like a piece of turkey bacon. So I don't do that. I don't listen to headphones when I'm running and it feels like there could be rain or thunder or lightning because I heard that lightning can somehow hit your headphones, buzz your ear, and you'd go deaf. Not like when you listen to music on your headphones at way too loud or go to concerts without earplugs. I'm talking about lightning that would cause, what? Can't hear you. Now, I have no information whether these are just things that people have told me that are wrong, but they stuck with me. I'm talking about like waffles in a waffle maker when you don't use Pam. Anyway, so I'm driving. That was a little side note there, Coca. So I'm driving and it's raining and I'm passing Citi Field. And I luckily didn't need to stop because I had no reason to get my car repaired at all. Like the car was running just fine. So I get through Queens and I'm getting ready to keep going east. And I'm thinking to myself, I remember these days of the rain delays. I remember sitting around studying the radar, figuring out when the window is. When do we tell the opposing team, get your starting pitcher warmed up? When do we figure out when's the best time to play? Do we want to blow this game off? We would call it, this was the expression we used, when are we going to bang it? We're going to bang the game. There's a little inside baseball for you. That's what we call it. Let's bang this game. Let's bang this practice. We just would use that word a lot because I think it's inversely correlated to the amount you do it. You just talk about banging and then you end up playing. And that's what the Mets did. And then I was thinking about Stevie Cohn's tweet, which came out 2 days ago before one of the victories over the Braves saying, oh, we're going to play better. I promise. I know it's not great, but it's going to get greater. Go team. And then I watched this game happen and I was trying to imagine. I was just sort of thinking to myself, what is David Stearns doing? David Stearns, smart. He's fine, but he's got to deal with Steve Cohn. And if you think that Steve Cohn is as carefree and pleasant as he appears on Twitter, then you don't know Steve Cohn. And if you knew Steve Cohn like I knew Steve Cohn, then you would be willing to understand that David Stearns, it's like a nightmare, the phone calls that come in. Hey, how can we be losing like this? And the answer is because it's baseball. You're going to give up a 9-run inning every once in a while. Sorry, Coca. And no, you're not who I'm talking about. You're not an acquaintance. Well, you're not a friend. You're the producer. You know what today is? Today is Thursday, which means we have a guest on Thursday. And this is not your average, ordinary Thursday. This is one where we are bringing on a Hall of Famer. Not just any Hall of Famer, but a person who I had the honor and privilege of watching games with and working next to from 2002 to 2017. I think we have him. And if we do, I want to welcome Andre Dawson to Nothing Personal. Do I have him? I don't have him. I can see him.
Good morning. How are you?
Yes. Good morning, Andre. How are you?
I'm doing real well, David. Thank you.
I really do appreciate you being here. I know that you don't do a lot of these, and I take it as an honor that you were willing to come on the show. And to the audience, you don't realize how special it is that you are getting to hear from and look at Andre Dawson.
Well, I appreciate it. You know, you're still a pistol. That's probably why I always loved you. But I'm indeed honored to be one of your invited guests this morning.
Well, thank you. And I want to get right into something that matters to me and will matter to our audience, and certainly that you think about too. I was honored and really loved watching you get inducted into Cooperstown. I've been to Cooperstown twice in my life for inductions. The first time was when you got inducted, and the second time is when Ichiro got inducted this past year. And being able to share that with your family, with your beautiful wife Vanessa, with your children, it was a special moment that I thanked you many, many times for that. But I want to thank you again publicly for allowing me to be included in that moment. And I must say, Andre, that I was disappointed that I didn't get to see you at the Hall of Fame. And I know that you are busy, but I must tell you that I miss not seeing you, because you are what fans look at when they think of greatness. And we talk about greatness on this show a lot. And you embody greatness both on and off the field.
Well, I appreciate it. And I haven't attended the last two Hall of Fame induction ceremonies for obvious personal reasons. And I don't know how long, the show is. I would dwell into it a little bit, but I will say this. I personally reach out to those individuals and congratulate them. It's nothing personal with them. It's just me in the hall with a situation that came up a few years ago involving the cap that I went in wearing during my ceremony. And I just, think that the protocol itself has been changed over the years, and players are being allowed to voice not wearing a cap. And I find it kind of ironic because I was told at the outset that we would sit down and discuss which cap I was going to wear, and it never manifested. The Hall made the determination based on what they felt was the most impact for time during my career to put me in as a representative of that organization. And
Andre, you're talking about the plaque in the plaque room, your plaque, which has a Montreal Expos logo. And
correct.
you're saying that you asked the Hall of Fame if you could go in not as an Expo, but instead as a Chicago Cub?
Well, that was going to be probably the course of the conversation. I told them, my wife made a comment to uh, Jane Clark, uh, who oversees everything. She runs everything. That I didn't want to go in as an expo when I went to the national media in New York right after the announcement was made. They had a huge placard of me on the stage, and she specifically said, "You don't want to go in as an expo." And the comment was, "Well, don't worry about that. Disregard it. We're going to sit down and talk about it at some point," which never happened.
Why
And
did you not want to go in as an Expo, Andre?
there were a number of factors, a number of things that sort of manifested over the course of my career. But the ultimate kicker was they presented me as a free agent with a contract, with a take it or leave it contract, and there was no subsequent negotiations. We never really negotiated. And we sat in a meeting, my agent, my wife, and myself. The very last day of the season, I only wanted to talk to the owner and not necessarily the general manager.
Who was Charles Bronfman at the time?
Right, was Charles Bronfman, and it didn't go over real well. Mr. Bronfman did note that there was an offer on the table, and my agent, the late Dick Moss, made a comment, Charles, that that's not going to be acceptable because it was calling for a $200,000 cut in pay. And he made a comment to Mr. Bronfman, we're going to test the free agent market. And the only thing I ask of you is that you don't F Andre Dawson. And it didn't go real well with Mr. Bronfman. And the following day, there was a report that came out in the newspaper that my agent, myself, and my wife sat in a meeting with the owner, and they were both intoxicated. And that didn't go over real well with me because it was the farthest thing away from the truth. We just made a legitimate point that, we weren't going to accept a $200,000 cut and pay as a free agent to remain in Montreal and
What
play.
year was this, Andre?
This was 1986.
And people need to remember what happened in 1987. So this is the time of collusion, and this is the time when Andre then went to the Cubs and won an MVP in 1987. This was not a player at the end of his career trying to hang on. This was a player in the prime of his what is a Hall of Fame career. Andre?
Yeah, well, and also, there were other factors that would happen during the course of my career there. But, I just put the past in the past. But going forward, I knew that they weren't going to budge with what their offer was because they anticipated no one negotiating with me. And we got a little bit creative. I just told my agent, I'm going to get off the AstroTurf. I can see the writing on the wall. It's just time for me to move on. And we presented that blank contract to the Cubs. It was the only way that there was going to be movement. And I didn't really anticipate that they would make me an offer, but they did make me an offer to refuse because it was $500,000 less than what Montreal was offering. And that's pretty much how I became a Cub. But, getting back to the Hall of Fame, I was told that my cap decision was based on a vote by the committee. Well, I wondered what happened to us sitting down and discussing that. And then I, sort of put that behind me also. And fast forward now, instead of players being put in based on where they had that impact for years, players like Greg Maddux, who should have gone in as Atlanta Brave, Tony La Russa, the late Roy Halladay, who didn't wear a cap, and then you had managers, Tony La Russa, who didn't wear a cap, and it sort of dawned on me.
Were you given the option to not wear a cap, Andre?
No, there was never any meetings, conversations about that. And my wishes always was, okay, if that's the scenario, I want to go in as a Cub. If not a Cub, then give me a blank cap. But I was a free agent in Chicago. I went back to Montreal the following year, and I was booed profusely because I wouldn't sign a $200,000 cut and pay. And I just felt that, you know what, okay, I'm going to put this whole Montreal situation behind me. And I reached out to Jane, and I said we need to readdress my situation, which she countered with, "There's nothing that could be done." It's funny because I sent a letter, and the Hall's response was that they never received the letter. It was a FedEx letter, and then fast forward 2 months later, I get a phone call because Bob Nightingale wrote an article depicting that I had requested a cap change. And the comments were that it's highly unlikely it would happen because it's never been done before, and the Montreal fan base does not want to be upset. So I thought about it, and I said, well, it's my career. And, this is something that I believe in. I went through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for a 21-year period, and why shouldn't I have a say-so in it? And then I was told, okay, well, the committee will make the determination. Again, you're talking about a committee, somebody voting, and I'm not present. I'm not present to hear what the comments are, how the whole situation is gonna go. And then I received another letter saying that the committee took a unanimous vote not to change anything. And I find that kind of ironic because there are 5 Hall of Fame members on that committee. And then I was obviously told that, well, the situation that went down in the meeting was that it wasn't presented in that manner. It never came up that you were never given that decision. And then I just said to myself, you know what? Um, Moving forward, I can't really present myself in Cooperstown and be happy in that environment, knowing that I'm going to have to, be in the company of these individuals. So I took the liberty at that point to just resign from any further participation.
So you've officially resigned as a member of the Hall of Fame. And how did you make that official?
Well, I wrote her a letter. I forwarded her another um, Federal Express after I was told that they voted unanimously not to change anything. And my comment was, well, you completely changed the protocol. The kicker was Fred McGriff. I sat down and had breakfast with Fred McGriff, and he said to me specifically that he was confronted by a committee member, and a committee member told him that it would be beneficial for him from an economic perspective if he didn't wear a logo. And at that point, I just said, you know what? Okay, this has got to change because they've completely changed the protocol. And all I asked was for a simple request, which was never granted me. And I'm a man of pride and principle, and I just feel that you know that obviously didn't mean anything to them. So I informed her that I was going to take a stand. That was the stance I was going to take. And I'm not going to fight this as long as I live. I'm just going to move on from it.
Has she or anybody responded to the second letter that said you were resigning from any further participation or association with Cooperstown, the Baseball Hall of Fame?
No, I never got a response from either she or the president.
When you think back, and I know that you've been back to Montreal, do you feel as though, including recently at a fan event, do you feel as though your relationship with Montreal and Montrealers has gotten better since your career ended?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's just a select few that have those kind of negative issues moving forward. People that are going to boo, they're going to boo anyway. I was the opposition, and at that point, I could accept that because I had moved on. But I just didn't feel the love when I went back. Obviously, there were some cheers, but it was overshadowed by the booing. But I don't have, any animosity with the fans. Um, I don't have animosity, period. I just felt that it was a choice for me personally moving forward. And, it never really happened for the reasons, obviously, that they felt wanted to be controlled and that by the Hall of Fame.
Did you get, when you signed with the Cubs in '87, you said that was for $500,000 less than what even Bronfman and the Expos were offering, but you put a blank contract because there was collusion going on. Did you get part of the collusion settlement?
Oh, yes, I was a major player when it came down to collusion, and I did get a settlement. And the funny thing, about it, when I accepted the $500,000 offer, Dallas Green, who was the general manager at the time, he got quiet. He didn't really know how to respond to it, and he said, "Can I get back to you in about an hour?" And I said, "Sure, I'll wait for your call," because I was going to go to West Palm Beach and do the same thing with the Atlanta Braves because there were only two teams that I wanted to play for, both being in the National League and being on a natural playing surface. And I got the call the next day. I flew back from Arizona. I got the call the following day, and when he made the offer, I said, "Okay, Mr. Green, I appreciate it. I'll accept it." I felt I lost the call because I didn't hear anything for about 15 seconds. And he said, "Can I call you back in an hour?" And I said, "I'll wait around." And sure enough, he called me back and he welcomed me aboard. I knew what was transpired at that point because he made the offer and he had to clear it with the commissioner. But there was going to be a lot of backlash. had they tried to, avoid that situation after they had made me an offer.
And the thought was that when they offered you and you said, hey, just you fill in the number, the point that you thought is that the Cubs were actually, that no one was going to make an offer because you thought that's what the collusion was. And at the end of the day, what was ruled is there was collusion. And what happened is it had a quashing impact on your worth, as witnessed by you had to sign for $500,000 where you were worth, obviously, you were MVP the following year. By the way, the last MVP for a last place team, I believe, if I have that right. That's how good you were in '87. And it's amazing because what Dallas Green expected you to say was to be offended by that offer, because that could then continue the fact that no free agents were being signed, which was the collusion that was going on. And you screwed the whole thing up by saying yes. And so Dallas Green had no idea what to do with that.
Yeah, when he first saw the contract, he didn't know what to make of it. He said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's pretty cut and dry. It's simply, let your legal people look it over and just pay me what you think I'm worth." That's kind of, what it was. And I told him, I said, "I'm going to leave it on the table only for 24 hours." So he had no idea. We showed up unannounced, David. Spring training, they were playing games already. And we made a comment to one of the people, security people, that we were standing outside the gate. Can you see that we get in to see Mr. Green? I gave him my name, and he said, "I'll be right back." And I don't know what transpired with that conversation, but when he came back, he said, "Yes, just follow me." And that's how we actually got into Dallas Green's office.
I think what happened is it would be the equivalent of being the best player in the game and all of a sudden showing up in my office. It would have been like at his height, Albert Pujols walking across Roger Dean Stadium and going to security and saying, "Hey, Albert Pujols would like to meet with you, David." And I'd be, "Wait a minute, that can't be true. That's Andre Dawson. Andre Dawson wants to meet with me? What? Uh-oh." And all of a sudden you were a Cub. And people don't realize that during spring training, when free agents don't sign early, which is what baseball wants, and spring training is coming, there's a panic. And it sounds like you were not panicked in the least, that you were going to do Chicago, do the Braves, but you were very aware of the situation you were in.
It's funny because I was being offered more money to go play in Japan. And I made the comment to my wife at the time, and she said, "The Japan?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Well, I'll see you when you get back." So that was pretty much off the table also. But, I knew that they could make me an offer that was going to be satisfactory. After the comment came out, I think it was the Montreal Gazette, but they couldn't make me an offer that was going to be satisfactory because they had reached the wrong nerves in a sense, and it was just time for me to move on.
Do you see a path forward with Cooperstown? If there were a situation where you had an opportunity to change your plaque to a no cap plaque or to the Cubs logo plaque, is that something you would entertain now as a settlement, or is your view that your participation with Cooperstown is done forever?
Oh, that's just been my simple request all along. Okay, you're changing the protocol. Well, just do the honor of giving me the opportunity to voice what should have been done in the first place. And I like I said, I have given this a lot of thought, and honestly, yeah, that's something that we should have actually when they had the committee meeting. How do you hold court and I'm not present? At least let me hear what's being said, and if I have any comments at all going forward, you move forward that way. But to present uh, comments to a committee, and I don't know what those comments are. I don't know what was said in the meeting, and then to hear one of the committee members say to me that, well, this is how it was presented, that in itself is manipulating and tells me verbatim that, we're not going to move on this stance. It is what it is. And
But if they
again,
did, Andre, I'm
yeah,
asking if they did, would you be willing to sit
oh,
down
yeah,
with them?
most definite, most definite, because it's the only thing, I've requested. And I don't, really think that anything is going to happen. I was prepared for that. And, before I reached back out to them to let them know how I felt about everything, I just made sure that that was the decision that I was going to have to live with going forward. And I had no problem with it.
And you're still very much in the game. You're still working. We were together with the Marlins until Derek Jeter fired you, which was
Wait a
unbelievable.
minute. Wait a minute. Did Derek fire me or did he instruct you to fire me?
He instructed, but I didn't want to sell him out that way. I'm trying to be nice. I've tried to turn over a new leaf. Derek Jeter called me and said, call up Andre and fire him. Can you imagine I had to do that? We worked together for 15 years. Hi, Andre. I remember this clear as day. Hey, it's me. Yeah, you wouldn't believe this. Man,
I know.
I'm sorry.
I
I
know.
really am.
Oh, no, 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 no. You know what? Hey, it's the business of baseball, and um, I understand new ownership, bringing their own people in, and going that uh, sort of scenario moving forward. Uh,
If only, Andre, you had played for the Yankees, then you wouldn't have been fired.
well, we had a lot of fun, David. I will say so. We had a lot of fun during my tenure with the Marlins, and hey, new people in town, they're asking you to do what you have to do moving forward because, I was under your tutelage.
But I remind you that I was the new person in town in 2002, and you were already there under John with John Henry, and maybe even with Wayne. I don't even know what year you started, but I inherited you, and I looked at the sheet because you were a name on a sheet of paper in terms of employees and who was there. I said, "Hold on, Andre Dawson and Tony Perez. Holy cow, that's awesome!" And we ended up working together for all those years, watching games. I still tell stories about the way me, you, and Tony would watch every home game together, and how Tony would look out with a runner on third and one out, and the runner wouldn't be driven in, and Tony would say, like in Spanish, and yell like, "Oh!" Like just totally losing his mind. And you were just stoic. You'd look out, and my kids who would go to games, Andre, Tony would be so loud, and you, Andre, they were scared of you because you were so intensely watching the game and very quiet. What are you doing with the Cubs right now?
Actually, now I'm in one of those ambassador roles. Um, there was sort of five of us that they kind of move around to do corporate season ticket holder sponsor events. And, we lost a good friend of mine, teammate, Ryan Sandberg, a few weeks ago. Uh, Billy Williams is kind of getting on the elderly side. Lee Smith had to have a heart transplant. And Fergie Jenkins is up there in age also. So the Cub Hall of Famers facing tough times. But that's pretty much what I do. It requires me just to hop on a plane, fly to Chicago, do whatever special events that they have, and come right back home. So I enjoy it. I enjoy it. It keeps me around the game, and of course, obviously, the Cub fan base, you can't really say enough about.
They love you. You know that, right? And the fact is, Montreal fans love you. That as time passes, people tend to forget what happened, or it's been enough years as it should be, and they recognize what you did on the field and what you've done off the field, the contributions to the game. And so I remember one of the things I enjoyed talking to you about was how to evaluate players, and how can I figure out exactly what am I looking at? Am I seeing this right? And you would help me look at things in certain ways. when I'm looking at today's Cubs and people want to talk about PCA and how great he was, and then after the All-Star break, he's not been able to hit a home run in weeks. He's not been able to drive in any runs. He's not been able to do anything. He's not drawing walks. What would you be saying to me if I were the president of the Cubs about PCA?
I would just, have this conversation with him because he's a very, very high energy individual, gifted, talented, and, you kind of rally around him. And I hate to see the fact that he's at this point now kind of fighting himself. He's throwing his bat, throwing his helmet, which it's okay in a sense, but just go out and slow the game down, get back to what the essentials are for you to derive the success that you're having. And that's take your walks because they don't want to walk you because that's, an extra base, maybe two. Be patient, be a little bit more patient. He's a free swinger in a sense. So they're going to figure you out. They're going to change the approach to how they're pitching to you. And you got to make the adjustment. It's a game of adjustments. Over the course of 160 games, you're going to have those lull moments where, you don't really understand what it is that's going on. But slow everything down, get back to what derived your success, or what was you doing when you was having your success. And that was you were having fun. You're not having fun now because you're throwing the bat. You're going to go 0 for 6, 0 for 10, sometimes maybe even 0 for 15. But every day is a new beginning. And, you got to make the adjustments. It's what it is. It's a cat and mouse game between the pitcher catcher and the hitter. And when they figure that they have figured things out and they attack you a certain manner and you don't make the adjustment, that's what they're going to continue to do. So you just have to get back to some of the intangibles that worked for him early on.
I wonder if it's strange for him to have this coincide with the fact that the Brewers have just been so hot they don't lose a game. And now all of a sudden the Cubs are 7 games back of the Brewers, and it's coinciding with his slump. And that's a lot for a young player, as it was if you watched him during the All-Star game, getting a ton of attention. And attention on the north side in Chicago is significant attention. And then all of a sudden you're looking up at the Brewers, you're looking up at your average that's plummeting and all sorts of things. The Cubs still have plenty of time, but hopefully you get a chance to speak to PCA because that's very good advice. We would look for the frustration with young players, you and I, when we talk about when we're going to send a player down or when we're going to give a player a day off. You would always teach me, hey, look at whether or not their approach has changed, whether or not their reaction to things that happen on a baseball diamond has changed, like their frustration level goes up. And we're seeing that with PCA.
Yeah, one thing you don't want to do is start pressing. And obviously, a few weeks ago, they were in first place. And now you all of a sudden have an offensive slump with your key players, and then players may start pressing. So you got to, tip your cap to the Brewers. They've been playing lights out baseball. And if you, run into one of those situations where you start to struggle offensively as a ball club and you lose some games that you should have won, the end result is what you're seeing. A team that's hot, they're going to, continue to win, then you're going to start falling in the standings. But like you said, there's a lot of time left. And they've had a phenomenal season. But they got to get back to what they do best. This was a team I felt that had power. They could hit home runs, but they also took their walks. They brought the element of base running back into the game because they had a lot of individuals in that lineup that could run. And that was their identity. And don't get away from that. Don't think that, you're going to win ball games by hitting home runs, which they won a lot of games by hitting home runs. But, you're built a little bit different than that. So know what your identity is and stick with it.
Well, I appreciate your time. I've kept you for way, way longer. I didn't realize, and I apologize. I thought only 25 minutes, but you stayed so much longer. That's my fault. I lost track of time completely because I was so engrossed. And I hope that when we talk again, that the Hall of Fame situation, we can help resolve that, because you not being in Cooperstown or having resigned from the Hall of Fame is just not the way it should be. You are a Hall of Famer. You are one of the greatest players to have ever played Major League Baseball. It's my honor to have known you, to know you, and to work with you. Andre, thank you so much for your time. Andre Dawson.
Well, thank you, David. Always good to see you and talk to you, and look forward to it.
Thank you, Andre. I was not ready for that, Coca, and I apologize. I took everyone way past the time in that conversation with Andre Dawson, because I didn't realize that, A, I could sit and talk to Andre for a day, but B, that story with the Hall of Fame, I'd read some stuff about it, but I was not aware of the recent updates, and I think it is all of our responsibility to bring this story to light, because Andre Dawson is a legend, and having someone, I've never heard of anyone, Coca, resigning from the Hall of Fame. I've never heard of such a thing. It's absolutely ridiculous that Andre Dawson, who is a man of such principle, who's a man, he told you what happened to him during free agency, during collusion, and what he wasn't saying about how he was treated in Montreal and with Chicago and Dallas Green. There's a lot that he didn't say there that we could talk about. What he did say is something that you just don't hear often when a Hall of Famer talks about that. So, Andre, we are all lucky to have just spent time with Andre Dawson. I wanted to get to him, Coca, on some more Cubs stuff, because there was so much more to talk about with the team. I didn't want to just talk about PCA, but we ended up staying there. Their GM, Carter Hawkins, had some weird comments yesterday, and I wanted to get Andre's point of view, but I'm going to give you my point of view. He's the GM who works that, remember, when it's a GM, but he's really an AGM, but he becomes a GM because the GM gets promoted to president of baseball operations. Remember that whole thing that we started with Larry Beinfest? Well, go and look at the title for Jed Hoyer, then look at the title for Carter Hawkins, yada, yada. It's a great situation for teams to do this because it stops movement, but whatever. But you don't often hear from the GMs. Mostly it's the president of baseball operations. So I had never seen anything said by Carter Hawkins. And he was asked to talk about the deadline activity of the Cubs. Now, coincidentally, the Cubs at the deadline, some would argue, hey, not enough. And then they'd argue, well, by the way, we're getting crushed now. What they're ignoring is that the Brewers don't lose. So you put the Brewers not losing along with you being average, and all of a sudden you go from tied to 7 back. But this could not have been workshop, but we wouldn't have our AGM or GM ever speak to the media without speaking to PR first, without speaking to me first, talking about messaging. Look at what he said. Teams are trying to find that guy that can lock down the 8th or 9th inning, but that also costs a lot. He's talking about he's talking about the Padres, he's talking about the Mets, he's talking about the Yankees, who all brought in bullpen help. And the Cubs could certainly use bullpen help. So he was saying that it's going to cost a lot. That costs a lot of future wins. Talking about, I guess, trading prospects. But listen to this. We have a responsibility to the 2025 Cubs, but also the 2032 Cubs. That's not always popular in the moment, but it's decisions we have to make. OMG. Do you understand why that comment is wrong? When you talk about that we have a responsibility to the 2025 Cubs and the 2032 Cubs, because by the time you get to 2032, wouldn't you just say that we have responsibility not just for the 2032 Cubs, but we have responsibility for the 2039 Cubs? And then when you get to 2039, wouldn't you just say we have responsibility for the 2046 Cubs? That's the theory, that you can just keep having responsibility for future teams. I am not, Coca, as much as I'd like to. I am not saying the Cubs should be like Samson and trade everybody and buy at all times. Reckless abandonment. Screw the minor leagues. Who cares? Trade them all. I want to win right now. My responsibility is to the 2025 Cubs, and that's it. I could care less about 2026, which happens to be starting spring training in only 6 months. I'm not saying that either extreme is right, but man, oh man, I am saying you don't say that publicly. You do not talk about 2032. There's a bunch of Cub fans now. They did win in 2016. But it wasn't the dynasty they thought it was going to be, and they're trying to come back with Craig Counsell and win another World Series. Because even if they win another one, it's still not a dynasty. It's all brand new players. But it would be cool to say, yeah, we've won 2 in 10 years after not winning one in, what was it, Coca, 100 years? So as far as I'm concerned, the Cubs, who are under 500 since the deadline, 7.5 games back of the Brewers. If you're going to have your GM make any sort of comment, here's a better plan. We absolutely do not understand or appreciate the fact that a 10-game stretch that has been below average for us has coincided with a perfect 10-game stretch by the team we were tied with, therefore making it seem as though the sky is falling. We looked at the deadline to make the trades that we have always looked to make throughout the course of our very successful run that we've had running this team. We did not, nor could we, find a trade that we were willing to make. You know what? I may have talked about that sentence on Nothing Personal. I may have broken it down to tell you it's a bunch of horse hockey, but from a fan perspective, way better. Way better than just downright talking about the fact that you're there to protect a team from 7 years from now, when you know very well the average career is 3+ years. You're lucky if PCA is still on the team 7 years from now, because it's 7 years from now. How many? Now, let's do the math, Coca, right now. How many people are on the Cubs today who were on the Cubs in 2018? And then I want to look at the team that the Cubs are in 2025. And are those all players who were in the organization in 2018 and now they're on the team in 2025 because the team in 2018 did not have the ability to win because trades weren't made? I'm trying to see if I can understand how this works. Because if you're just going to say that we're sticking to our approach and that we are good, we brought in Mike Soroka, and we thought that was the right move at the right time, and we're sorry the guy got injured. I get it. But if you're talking about the fact that you appreciate your approach, then explain your approach. And the only way that they're explaining their approach is by saying that we have to pay attention to the future and we have to do deals that make sense to us right now. Well, I guess I would say this, that you traded for Kyle Tucker, and Kyle Tucker is a 1-year player. And you're trying to extend Kyle Tucker to a contract that will likely be well past 2032. So what exactly is the business you're doing with Kyle Tucker? What is the business that you're doing as the organization as you are trying to win another World Series? I always want the fan base to believe that we are doing nothing but trying to win right now. It is only and all about right now, because there's plenty of time to worry about tomorrow. You may get some wrong. You may trade away some good ones, but at the end of the day, you have the ability to actually look inside your fan base, no matter what happens, no matter how hot the Brewers are, and say, we tried, it's just business. We'll be back tomorrow. This is Nothing Personal.